I left my husband at the cemetery after shocking truths emerged at our son's grave. I don't even know how to start this without my hands shaking because it feels like I'm trying to fit 15 years of love, grief, and betrayal into one single moment. And that moment happened today in a place that was supposed to be sacred. I left my husband at the cemetery. I walked away from him while he was still standing in front of our son's grave. I didn't say goodbye, didn't give him time to follow, didn't even turn to see if he was watching me go. I just left him there because in the space of 10 minutes, everything I thought I knew about my son, my marriage, my life cracked in two. Daniel and I met when we were 25, and it was one of those whirlwind beginnings people talk about, staying up until 3 a.m. talking about dreams, laughing until we cried, thinking we'd found the person who would always be our safe place. We married after 2 years, and I really thought that we were the lucky ones who got to make it work. 2 years later, I got pregnant with Michael. That pregnancy was hard. I was so sick those first few months, throwing up so much that I lost weight instead of gaining it. Daniel held my hair back, made me ginger tea, whispered that it was all worth it because soon we'd have our baby in our arms. Michael was born on a rainy Tuesday morning, a perfect 7 pounds, 3 ounces, with a cry so loud the nurses laughed. I remember looking at him for the first time and feeling like my heart had been split open in the best possible way. The years that followed weren't always easy, but they were ours. Michael was stubborn like me and cautious like Daniel, but also had this wild curiosity about the world. He'd spend hours building little Lego cities only to knock them down so he could start fresh. I can still hear the way he'd say, "Mama, look," like every single thing he made was a masterpiece. He loved dinosaurs, peanut butter sandwiches, and sleeping with the same ratty stuffed rabbit every night. And then, when he was 10, the coughing started. At first, it was just a little, enough for the school to call and say he should come home. Then it became weeks of hospital visits, tubes, machines, doctors, speaking in careful tones that made me feel cold all over. He had an illness so aggressive that it felt like the ground was crumbling under us before we'd even taken a step. Less than a year later, he was gone. There's no good way to describe what it's like to bury your child. It's like your lungs forget how to work. It's like your lungs forget how to work. Like the sun is shining, but you're frozen to your bones. Like the world keeps moving around you, but you're stuck in the moment, the monitor flatlined. The first year after Michael died, Daniel and I clung to each other like lifelines. We'd go to the cemetery together once a month, sometimes sitting there for hours, just holding hands. But slowly, something changed. He became quieter, more distracted. I told myself it was just his way of grieving. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Today was the 3rd anniversary of Michael's death. I woke up with that familiar heaviness pressing down on my chest. We don't talk much on this day. It's understood between us that words won't change anything. I made coffee, set it down in front of him, and noticed he was scrolling through his phone with this almost tense expression. When I asked if he was ready to go, he just nodded and grabbed his jacket. The drive to the cemetery was quiet except for the low hum of the radio. It's about 40 minutes from our house, long enough to think, but not long enough to prepare yourself. I kept looking out the window, trying to remember what the weather was like the day we buried Michael. I think it was overcast. Or maybe I just imagined it that way because it matches how I felt. When we pulled in, I noticed immediately that there were already flowers on Michael's grave. Not the kind we usually bring. We always choose white roses because they were his favorite. These were lilies, fresh, still dewy, arranged neatly in a vase I didn't recognize. I assumed maybe one of my sisters had sent them, but when I walked closer, I saw the card tucked inside. I don't know why I opened it. I wish I hadn't. It said, "For my beautiful boy. Love, Dad." My stomach dropped. It wasn't Daniel's handwriting. I turned to look at him, and his face had gone pale. The kind of pale where you know someone is hiding something. "Did you come earlier?" I asked. He shook his head. "Then who?" I trailed off because I think part of me already knew I wasn't going to like the answer. "Just leave it," he said, and that's when the panic set in. I asked again, my voice sharper this time, "Who left these?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. That was all I needed to start piecing it together. My heart was hammering. I asked him point blank if Michael was his son, his real, biological son? The silence that followed was worse than any words. When he finally spoke, it was like the ground beneath me split open. I always knew he might not be mine, he said. My knees actually went weak. I felt like I was underwater. Daniel told me that before we got married, before I even knew I was pregnant, he knew there was a chance the baby wasn't his. He said it didn't matter at the time because he loved me and wanted a family with me. But here's the part that gutted me. The man who was Michael's biological father had been in his life, not as a parent in the open, but in secret. Daniel had been letting him see Michael sometimes. He'd take Michael out under the pretense of going to the park or getting ice cream, but they were actually meeting this man. For years. Behind my back. I think I actually laughed when he said it because it sounded so absurd, so far from the life I thought we'd had. Why would you do that without telling me? I asked. His answer made me want to scream, because you would have tried to keep him away from Michael. And that wouldn't have been fair to him. Him. Not me. Not our son. The man who'd walked away from me when I needed him, who only came slinking back into the picture once there was a child he could claim. Daniel said Michael deserved to know where he came from. I said Michael deserved honesty. And now, here we were, 3 years after losing him, standing over his grave, with lilies from a stranger calling himself Dad, like I was some outsider in my own child's life. I thought about all the times Michael had said odd little things about a man who looks like me at the park, about seeing someone I'd never met before. I brushed them off as misunderstandings. I thought I was being paranoid. I wasn't. And now I'll never get to ask him if he was confused, if he felt torn, if he even knew the truth. I told Daniel I couldn't look at him, couldn't stand there pretending that the ground we were standing on wasn't soaked with lies as well as grief. He said, "He was never just yours, Rose. You need to accept that. That sentence will haunt me for the rest of my life." I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. I don't know if he's still there or if he's found his way home by now. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him. All I know is that the boy we both loved is gone, and the life I thought I'd built with Daniel died right there with him.